No one can control death, and I think it's a fascinating one, given that we're in a world where we think, naively that we're kind of immortal, but everyone dies, and that's the one thing everyone shares, is that at some point we're going to cock it.
Con Gaby Cam y Javier Ibarreche.
Oh, Theo, welcome to the estreno. Oh my God, what a film, The Monkey.
Thanks for having us.
Great to be talking with you, and I'm going to start with you, as there are some changes, of course, from the Stephen King's short story. I want to ask you about those key decisions you made in expanding the narrative for a feature film, and I also want to know your approach into balancing the tones of horror with the comedic elements we get to enjoy in The Monkey.
I think it was sort of all one thing. I mean, I think the privilege of being, sort of aligned with Stephen King and being able to kind of work from the really fertile garden that he's created is such a special thing to be able to do. And there was never an expectation that I would be faithful to the storyline. There was more, for me, there was the intention to be faithful to the energy of Stephen King, right? To like what he makes me feel. And there's a playfulness to him that I really appreciate, things like Creepshow and Misery. And there's a nostalgic quality to what he does. There's a melancholy. All these things felt like they resonated with who I am and how I feel about life and death. And so being able to approach, sort of ruminating on my own experiences with life and death, which have been significant, and sort of having enough distance from things to be able to apply comedy to it felt very sort of, I mean, healing is sort of a goofy word, but it felt very sort of like a good, it was like a welcome part of my process. And I felt like sharing sort of profane irreverence around death seemed like as nice a gift to give to an audience as anything.
I want to tell you something that resonated with me was that the phrase, "everything is an accident," is repeated a lot, particularly by your mother in the film. And it seems to suggest, I don't know, a worldview where chance and randomness play a significant role. How does this philosophy and the repetition of that phrase influence your character's actions and decisions, especially given the film's like life tagline, which implies a certain unpredictability?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the big themes of the film. It's no one can control death, and I think it's a fascinating one, given that we're in a world where we think, naively that we're kind of immortal, but everyone dies, and that's the one thing everyone shares, is that at some point we're going to cock it, and you don't know when and you don't know how, but it's going to fucking happen, and that it's an interesting philosophical point to kind of explore in a way, and how different people deal with death. In the film, Hal deals with death. He kind of understands it, I guess. He's used to it. He's not afraid of it, and as a result, he has a certain calm. Bill is terrified of death. He's still a child in a man's body, and is desperately trying to outrun it. So, those two juxtaposing visions of mortality were fascinating to explore.
I love how the film, as you were saying, doesn't shy away from depicting death, even in unsettling ways, but it also suggests, as you said, that death is an intrinsic part of life, something we often try to push away or ignore. How did both of you approach portraying this idea, and what do you hope audiences reflect on regarding their own relationship with mortality after seeing The Monkey?
I mean, I think I took it as an opportunity to sort of air my feelings around how hard it is to talk about death when it comes. When someone when a friend suffers a death in their life, how difficult it is to sort of have that thing to say that is going to help or make any sense. Because guess what? None of it helps and none of it makes any sense. So you have these characters in the screenplay and in the picture, the priest and their mom back to back, sort of espousing this sort of let it be quality of like, there's nothing you can do about it. It's fine that there's nothing that you can do about it. And kind of what's next, sort of like the thank you next thing about, like you have your moment of meditating on death, but realizing that the only real kind of answer to it is to just keep going. We're all still alive. How nice.
We want to make sense of death, why it happened at a certain point, why it happened young or old, what happens after death. But the kind of nexus of the idea of the film is that it's uncontrollable, and we're desperate for control. And more in this culture that we live in, we're desperate for, you know, the things that don't matter. We're desperate for more money and more power and more better looks and all those things. But in reality, they are things that drift in the wind, and the things that really matter are kind of the things that are most important to you, which is what the film says. It's about, you know, family and the ones closest to you, and soon we'll all be dead, so enjoy it while we can, you know.
Yeah, we can dance through it all. Thank you so much. I enjoyed talking to you, both of you. Theo, Osgood, thank you for this fantastic horror film.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Te